Okay, people. March 4th, 2016. There's Boots2. He came back, so that's good, right? I have my neighbor keeping an eye open for him too, and apparently he gives him some milk or whatnot every now and then as well. He knows this cat is also homeless, and he said that if we can catch him, he'll make sure that, we can take him to the vet, and we'll get him looked at here, right? In other words, I don't have to worry about money at this point. Let's just catch him, and then we'll get him to the vet that dealt with Mr. Lace, because that vet also is a good vet, right? He's cut me some slack before in the past under emergency situations like this. So I don't know how I'm going to catch this cat, though, people. So today, I'm just going to let him rest right now. Hold on. And I'm just going to cook up some discounted chicken livers here. Right? It cost me a total of $1.85. I have to scrounge up some more oatmeal, and I've got some bread, so hold on. Okay, so another different batch of cat food. Chicken liver. Oops. I boiled it. Now I've got some fancy dancy brown rice and mixed rice in there. Alright, just something I had sitting in the container. We'll let that soften up. And this is shredded carrots that have been frozen for a while. So I'm going to let the rice cook for a little while first, and then I'm going to throw the shredded carrots in there, right? And then I'm going to cut these up into smaller little pieces and mix that all up, and that will be their food for the day. And because Boots2 has an injury, I'm going to put a bit of turmeric in there, but I'm not going to cook with it. I'm just going to wait until almost everything's done, and then I'll put it in at the last minute, right, so it doesn't cook out the medical properties of turmeric, and maybe that might help, right? You never know. Hold on. Okay, people, Uncle John's chair. All right. It is March 4th, 2016. I'm making cat food. Boots2 has been up there all morning. He's waiting. All right, Elsie's at the door whining, complaining to try and get in. People either have insomnia in the house, can't sleep. My youngest daughter has had it for a couple of weeks now. She doesn't want to go to the doctor because she's afraid that the doctor will just prescribe her sleeping pills. She's 18, right? And my middle daughter had the same problem at one point too, insomnia. I suffer from it. My sleeping pattern is wonkers. I don't know. Too much stress, people. That's what it is. The BC Liberal government nightmare. That's, I think, what I'm going to call this video, because my middle daughter came up this morning, and she's paying 2 bills for me. She's paying a part of my Visa bill and just the cable part of the TV, right? Because I need help, right? And it's frustrating for her because she doesn't make a lot of money, and she's trying to pay off her Visa and pay off, like I said before, her SkyTrain tickets at $175 a pop, which is just another form of gouging the public, right? She got those when she was 15, and they're still hanging over her head. And of course, I've been maxed out with this yard ever since Sook showed up. I don't remember when it was, but I'll look back and I'll figure out the date when he showed up. Because he showed up in November. He told me he was going to come back in the spring, but he came back in winter time, and I've been outside pretty much on the regular. I did the 14 days straight out of the 15 days, and even then he wasn't satisfied. You know, he wanted more things done, right, which I haven't completed at all, because there's other things that need to be done out there as well. It's not just simply move things around, right, and wash them so they can be moved around again, knocked over and ruined and rained on and God knows what, right? So, you know, I was sore before I even started because, like I said before, there's something wrong with me. I don't know what it is. And since I've been doing this, you know, it's been really hard. So from the time he showed up and I did that 14-day stint, I haven't left the house except for once, and that was yesterday, and I went to the food bank yesterday, people. Because it's pretty much rest, you know, do dishes every 3 or 4 days right now, because when I'm working outside, I can't do inside. If Uncle John was here, he would tell you. If I'm outside, inside falls apart. If I'm inside doing stuff on the inside, the outside falls apart. In terms of weeds getting out of control and, you know, things don't get built or whatever, right? If I'm outside, you know, the floor gets behind and the dishes get behind and the laundry gets behind and things get scattered around and, you know, and the mud is tracking in and it's clothes, the muddy clothes are piling up and the muddy boots and the wet boots and those things are piling up, you know. So in a lot of ways, it's a never-ending battle for me, because I showed you what's going on in these Mickey Mouse sheds of mine, right? And which is going to require more work in terms of washing and just repacking and washing and washing and coming into contact with mold of various different types, which has been ongoing year after year, and could be maybe one reason why I'm always tired and I'm achy, because I'm achy. And the more I work outside now, the more achier I get. So anyway, my daughter came upstairs, and you know, she's a little upset because you know, she has to pay $132 for the visa because I put $100 on it, and that's just the minimum payment, and I think like $228 goes on the interest. And then another $55, $60 on the cable bill. So that's almost $200 out of her paycheck that she's helping me with. And I still owe her $300 from that $1,000 that I borrowed off of her when the welfare department didn't give me a check for 1 month, right? So she borrowed $1,000 on her visa to help cover the rent and the bills. Well, I owe her $300 still on that. So now I'm back to owing her $500. Right? So we were talking briefly because I'm trying to ask her to help me with taking out some of my costumes initially, and then if the girls want to see more, then I'll go, because I can't do it, people. I just don't have the energy. I just don't have the energy, right? Or maybe if they want to see, they can come to the house and they can see them at the house. But she needs to go to the dancers and talk to them herself, for me, first, to see if anyone wants to see anything. That's the only way that I can see. I said stay quiet. Okay? I'm not going to say it again. That's the only way I can see trying to make a little extra money for myself, because there's only so many things that I can do, right? Like in the last, month and a half, I went out one time, and that was just to go to the food bank yesterday. And plus my mother's rings. My mother's been dead now for 27 years, and her rings have been in the pawn shop for years. I'd get them out, I'd put them back in, I'd get them out, put them back in. So anyway, they were in the pawn shop, and my younger daughter, I said, pay these, because since Uncle John's been gone, I got like 6 or 7 things in the pawn shop, just, you know. And I said, look, these things are coming up. You need to pay anyway. Long story short, she paid the wrong stuff. So I almost lost my mother's rings because I found the slip, and I'm like, hold on a minute. So I phoned them up, and it had gone past its due date. But long story short, they ended up finding them. So that was okay. So I didn't lose my mother's rings. But I'm trying to explain to my daughter, right? And my other kids, like the 3. There's only 3 that I can really rely on. That's my younger son, my middle daughter, and my 18-year-old daughter. My older son doesn't live here. He did call me up about 2 weeks ago, but he was, drinking, right? And like, I just turned into the green-eyed monster, people. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it must, because I grew up with an alcoholic mother. No, my mother was a beautiful woman. She was very classy. She had the best of the best, beautiful perfumes and fur coats and flowing gowns, and and she had a little townhouse that she got for herself, and she was very, very classy woman. But at the end of the day, she was an alcoholic, right? So it created this stamp in my head where, if you're an alcoholic on the outside, I can try and help you in terms of, affordable housing, and I'm not here to judge you because you're an alcoholic, but don't expect to come and live in my house and be an alcoholic. And this is something that my son doesn't seem to understand. And if he does understand it, he needs to go, he's 30 now, right? And I raised him to the best of my ability. I didn't ask us to be kicked out of Wally's house in 2003 by a corrupt government that got elected through lobbyist groups and big corporation, right, to change the economy so that it attacks the poorest of the poor, or the poor working, the working poor, or even the middle class for that, for that matter, right? Because, you hear them say that they're suffering as well, right? So, what I'm trying to say is, my daughter told me that she had a nightmare last night. And I said, well, that's interesting. I had one too. So not only can we not sleep in the house very well, some of us, right? Probably most of us. Some of us worse than others. We're having nightmares at the same time. And I contribute this to the BC Liberal government with their rotten politics. I do. They, the naysayers and the spammers and, the ones that are stalking my channel, because they're too cowardly to go create their own channel. You got something to say? Go create your own channel, get up on YouTube and say it. Don't say it about me. Say what it is in the community that you don't like, right? If you don't like homeless people, get up on the camera and say, I don't like homeless people, and give the viewer the reasons why. Versus coming to my channel and attacking me because I get up and talk about the situation of homelessness, how it manifests itself, how it affects people, who it affects, why it affects people, and where we're going with it in terms of the numbers increasing. As the BC Liberal government has opened up our borders to anyone with money. They don't have to have morals as long as they have money. And if they have money, they can overinflate property prices so that people like my family get pushed out into the streets, and we become the next wave of refugees in our own country. As we're being towered over by our landlords saying, well, if you complain about a broken this or a broken that, especially if you complain too much, we're just going to either, one, kick you out, or two, sell the house from underneath you, and you'll be out, because we can't guarantee that the new owner will allow you to stay. Because the new owner is just looking to build a fence. They're Chinese. They don't want to deal with the homeless people. But the thing is, the original immigrants that came into this country that are Chinese, that live up in Chinatown, are going through gentrification, like the East End, where the natives were. Now it's creeping into where the Chinese are. And you've got elderly Chinese people, right? Or the working poor, or the one that's just above that poverty line, but doesn't really qualify for anything now because of the way the government structured, family allowance and baby bonus and, BC child tax benefit and all these, you know what I mean? So they're still poor, right? But their neighborhood is being wiped out, and they're losing their housing as the rich Chinese are moving in and forcing out the poor Chinese. So it's not a race issue per se, right? Some of us have it harder than others. Some of us were bred through the legislation, through our governments that kept us in poverty. For people to say, well, you never had a job in your life, you're just a big mooch, blah, 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 blah. Well, let me tell you something. When I was 25, John is my witness, but he's been removed from the house because, again, those people who have him want to convince you that, whatever John was supporting for the last 30 years is insignificant and we deserve to die and be starved out of our homes and flushed out into the streets, because that's what they're perpetrating here, people. Okay? They basically abandoned us like they abandoned poor Boots2. They abandoned Tom. There's all kinds of homeless cats, just as many homeless cats, if not more, than homeless people. Well, they play party politics with the union because a lot of them are union workers, right? They don't work for the public. They work for the government for their union pension plan. That's why they took John, because they were looking for his life insurance. Well, they capitalized off his pension plan. Because trust me, if he was on a $600 or a $900 welfare subsidy through, social assistance, they would show no interest of him. Absolutely none. Because they couldn't capitalize off of him. So we got a Chinese woman that wants to buy this house. She's asking me what's wrong with it. I basically ran through the structural part of it, which is, just the garage end and that pipe in the back for the most part. And quite possibly future drainage tile problems if this water freaking, river going through the back here doesn't get solved. But outside of that, you're looking at having to deal with a high population of homeless people until the city decides that they're just going to start arresting them and throwing more of them in jail. It hasn't happened yet, but it's going in that direction. Because if you go out and you talk to the people, that's what they'll tell you. They might not want to get up on camera and do an interview. But when I get up and I tell you, the ones that don't like what I have to say, what they're saying, and I say it in my way, all of a sudden, I'm wrong. And then you get this BC Bert that wants to brag on my channel that he's a homeless person, but he wants privacy. And that I'm the idiot for bringing this issue to a channel that could quite possibly, in the future, represent billions of dollars for the economy and can help millions of people. And a few mob members from the Duncan clan side and their supporters isn't going to distract away from that. But what will distract away from that is the more you get these rich immigrants coming in here and creating a second-class wave of refugees, okay? We've got the refugees coming in from Syria. We can't even house them properly, right? They're sitting up in bug-infested apartment buildings with little to no food. It's hard for them to integrate into the education system because there's not the proper support systems in there. If they're coming in at an age where they're 21, 22, 23, 24, it's even harder for them to get the education that they need in order to get the jobs to be able to support themselves. And they're basically forced to sit in the apartment. They can't go out and do anything, while whole families are being eaten alive by bed bugs. This is what they're coming into the country for. This is what the Chinese lady that buys this house is going to push me into after I leave it. And she's going to capitalize off of the yard, right? Because it's all in the past, like Sook said. It's all in the past. Doesn't matter what you did in the past. Doesn't matter if you practically killed yourself to do all this stuff in the yard. Doesn't matter if I took a whip to your back and I made you overwork to the point where you're exhausted and you only get to go out once every 2 months. Once every 2 fucking months. I went out 1 time, people. Because the priority is the yard. So that the city can possibly make more money because they're overinflating the property, right? In terms of having these people that can afford $700, they put this house up for $690,000. My landlady said that 3 people want this place. 3 people want this place. And they all gave her a good offer. Well, do you think that maybe that had something to do with me because I gave good praise on the house for the most part? I said it was a very strong, didn't creak, didn't moan, didn't groan. Right? Went through the hydro issues 3 times, people. My life was inconvenienced. My children's lives were inconvenienced over a period of 5 years, 6 years with the hydro. Don't you think that we have the right to have some peace now for a few years and not worry about hydro versus having a new owner buy the house and then kick us out so that we have, where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? Where are we going to go, people? We're the refugees. My family is the up-and-coming new refugee within a country that takes in refugees that can't even look after them properly. How does any of that make any sense? So that's the BC Liberal nightmare. Well, in the real world, my daughter last night is dreaming that she threw me into the washing machine and murdered me. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'm dreaming that Sierra, my oldest daughter, took me off God knows miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away and then left me there. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know how to get home. I had no money, and I had a bunch of homeless people around me that couldn't really help me because they were homeless. And I'm like, well, can you at least tell me in what direction I need to go in? Because I don't even know where the heck I am. I don't know how to get back to home. I had to hitchhike. I was ready to hitchhike. And before I got in the car, I'm thinking, don't hitchhike. You're not supposed to hitchhike. But I had no choice, people. I was going to fucking hitchhike and quite possibly disappear into the abyss. Wouldn't be the first time somebody disappeared into the abyss in this household. But my daughter woke me up because she wanted the bill, to pay the bill, right? Well, she's dreaming she's murdering me because I'm holding her back by having her, asking her to pay this bill. Well, I'm working 2 months straight in this yard and I get 1 day break to go to the food bank and to go plead at the pawn shop to tell them, please find my mother's rings. I'm sorry. My daughter took the wrong slip. That should never have happened. I don't want to lose my mother's rings after 27 years. Because of the Duncan clan and the BC Liberal government and a lethargic, apathetic fucking community that wants to put up fences, and that's how they're going to deal with their problems once they buy up all the property and flush the rest, like I said, the new wave of refugees out into the community. While the mayor is sitting up in City Surrey Hall, you know, shaking hands with the rich and the famous and the elite, making the next booking appointment with the Bush family, while she's high-fiving Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, which are all in the same fucking pea pod. Bragging on about how they're bringing in poor refugees and they're saving them from war. That's just so stupid. It's just, none of it makes any sense. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. So anyway, I just wanted to bring the nightmare to the surface, right? And I'm making this cat food. I'm so tired, people. I should be outside gutting that Mr. Lace's pen. I really should be. I'm going to do that tomorrow. get up early, start early, and I'm going to gut out that pen for Boots2, right? And I don't know how much I'm going to get done between now and the 10th when the suit comes. You know, it is what it is. I'll just tell him, like, what, you worked me like a dog for 2 months straight. I get 1 day to go to the food bank because I have no money to buy fucking groceries. And then I have to come home and work like a dog just so that you can come back and tell me it wasn't enough. Right? As my landlady is, you know, everything's in the balance. Everything's in the balance. I'm actually going to ask my landlord and my landlady to consider selling this house to my kids. In a year from now or so. Let's see if maybe my kids can come up with some down payment. Maybe we can work out something. Maybe. That's the only thing I can think of. Right? I mean, it's an option, right? I don't know if they would. They might. Other than that, we'll just be refugees in our own country. That's what's going to happen. Because in a year from now, the way things are going now, this house will be $800,000. That's what they'll be asking for it. 3 years from now, they'll be asking $1 million. And because these people from China and God knows where they're coming from can come in and just drop the cash while the BC Liberal government does nothing about the new wave of fucking refugees being flushed out into the streets in large numbers, large numbers, large numbers. The numbers are coming, right? As they're raping and pillaging the old people, as they're going into the temporary care wards, and they want to sit up there and ignore this stuff in the legislative House of Assemblies because it's too profitable to talk about it. You know, it's not to not talk about it. It's more profitable to not talk about it. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. This country that I live in is a disgrace. It's not what it was when I was growing up as a small child. Canadian values have been washed away with greed. Basically, they have been washed away with greed. On all kinds of levels of greed. It's, you know, and it's not race specific, okay? Like I say, the rich China woman wants to buy the house, build the fence to keep the homeless out. That's her solution to deal with the homeless people. But you go down to Chinatown up in the east end of Vancouver and you're going to see Chinese people that have been living there almost their whole lives losing their homes. Facing the same problem that I'm facing. As the rich Chinaman person or like Chinese person or, you know, Asian person, or they're not white people that's doing this, people. This is not white people that are buying up mass freaking quantities of land and pushing people. It's the white people that are being pushed out and becoming the new wave of refugees. People like myself that was conditioned through social services to feel bad about making money, being penalized for making money. And when you try and go out and make money, you're still not allowed to make money. So like when I said, when I was 25, I created a company, registered it, had to have interviews with the cops, had to have the fire department come to my house, you know, prove my location, had to have, what do you call these things, fire extinguishers there, everything, did the name search, did it all, got my license, had it up. But welfare wasn't satisfied with that. I had 3 months to prove that I could make money, and because the thing that I chose wasn't quick to make money, I had to hand in my license. So much for going to work, right? You know, that wasn't the priority. The priority was to keep me poor, keep me dependent, so that I would pay those mortgages for other people, so that economy would keep moving along. And those people could build, you know, retirement nest eggs for themselves and make a profit. I've paid over $120,000 in this house since I've lived here, and that's including the yard. Over $111,000 in rent, and then you can throw in another $5,000, $4,000 or so in the yard in terms of tools and materials and paying people. That doesn't include my time, which is probably $80,000 of time since I've lived here. And I get a big fat zero. I get a big fat zero as I'm being pushed out as the next wave of refugees. The only thing is, I will never be acknowledged as a refugee. I will be punished for the rich man's crime. That's what will happen. That's what's been happening. Create a non-profit. Did everything right. Tried to approach businesses and, and I got tired though. I got tired of the rhetoric. I got tired of the hypocrisy. I got tired of people challenging me, saying, well, a universal school meal program should be done on a provincial level, but not standing beside me to hold the government accountable so that we could have a universal school meal program. Instead, they casted judgment, just like these spammers and troublemakers on this channel. You got something to say? Remove yourself from my channel. Go create your own channel. Be brave. Get up on YouTube and say it. You want to be a community activist? Go create your own channel and go for it. I wish you the best of luck. I do. Maybe people will respond better to you. That's fine. I have no problem with that. Because the more that get out there and talk about the issues that are hurting people, hurting youth, hurting the elderly, hurting the kids, hurting families, hurting animals, versus, well, let's just put up a fence and ignore it. And while we're behind the fence, we'll just be shit disturbers and cast judgment on everybody else that are trying to make a difference while we sit and just complain about it. And take no responsibility for the new wave of refugees that are coming up in the ranks, that were born in a country that they don't feel like they belong in. We're like gypsies. That's what the government did. They created a bunch of freaking gypsies. Wandering gypsies that are having nightmares now. There's that cat sleeping. There's that cat food cooking. So I'll add some more water in there, soften up this rice. I'm not going to blend it. They don't like it like that. They prefer to eat it like that. Throw in the carrots, cut that up. Hold on.